Chapter 16. The Next Module. "What is it?" I asked again as the other aliens crowded round us.
Gracker yawned. "Nothing much," he said. "Just the missing FD gizmo."
"Isn't that what you need to enlarge the ship?" I cried.
"Oh, yes," he replied. "Not having it has caused us a great deal of trouble."
I wondered why Gracker was so calm about this, until I remembered that he still had the docility module in his head. "What's it doing in here?" I asked. Snout took the FD gizmo from my hands. "I suspect it was torn from the ship when we crashed through your window. Odds are one of your siblings found it and thought it was a toy." So little thing one had been carrying around the missing piece in her lunchbox full of toys all this time. It just goes to show you shouldn't ignore kids.
"All we have to do to enlarge the Ferkel, and ourselves, is mount that in the proper slot on the outside of the ship," explained Tar Gibbons.
"Great," I replied. "Only we're locked inside a lunchbox and the Ferkel is out there. So how are we going to get it onto the ship?"
"Plungity fribble wasn't smelled with a single sniff," said Tar Gibbons, nodding the way it did whenever it said something it considered to be particularly wise.
"What does that mean?" I asked. "It means discovering the FD gizmo is a starting point," said Madame Pong. "What we have to do next is find a way to get one or more of us out of this prison so we can—" Her words were interrupted by what felt like an earthquake. The floor became the wall as we tumbled sideways, landing in a jumbled heap of Legos, doll parts and stale crackers. It took me a moment to realise what had happened. It was simple, really. BKR had picked up the box. Suddenly the whole box began to shake. Plink screeched and grabbed me around the neck as we bounced up and down, then began slamming from side to side. Bits of toys, not to mention other aliens, were flying all around me. I felt as if I were trapped in a popcorn popper. "What's going on?" I cried. "What's he doing?"
"Shaking us,"
shouted Tar Gibbons as it bounced past me.
"But why?"
I cried as a plastic dinosaur whizzed past my head.
"Because he wants to," said Gracker. "He probably thinks it's funny."
"Millions have wept," said Madame Pong. "Make that 1,000,001, I shouted. Suddenly the shaking stopped. Once more the six of us lay in a heap at the current bottom of the box, which at the moment happened to be the side with the hinges. Plink clung to my neck and whimpered pitifully. A crack of light appeared at the top of the box.
"Having fun?"
asked BKR. Then he laughed, that same spine-chilling laugh I had heard one other time, and slammed the lid shut again. A half an hour later, we were back in BKR's house. We were still locked in Thing 1's lunchbox. The only reason we knew where we were was that Madame Pong had a radio connection to Phil, and he was able to see what was going on through the view screens of the Ferkel. He reported to Madame Pong, who repeated it to us word for word. "The enemy is carrying your prison in his right hand. Now he is tucking the Ferkel under his left arm and heading back toward the swamp. Aha, he has a small flying vehicle hidden here. He is stowing the Ferkel and the box in the back of his flying machine. Vision blocked for now, more reports later." During the silence that followed, we tucked the FD gizmo into my backpack, on the theory that it would be just as well to have it hidden in case we ever did manage to get out of our plastic prison. As I was fastening the strap that holds the pack shut, Madame Pong closed her eyes, a sign that she was getting a message from Phil, and said, "We are back at the Becker household. BKR has removed us from his flying machine. He is carrying us into the room where we had our last confrontation with him. He's looking around as if trying to find something. Now he is leaving the room."
"Good," said Tar Gibbons. "This is our chance to get out of here."
"Any suggestions on how we do that?" I asked.
"Yes, I have a simple suggestion, and you know what it is, don't you, Madame Pong?"
Madame Pong looked at Tar Gibbons in horror. "You don't mean—"
"Madam, Warrior science tells us that when there is no other choice, we make the choice we must. While the thought fills me with fear and loathing, I have to say I believe the tar is right, said Snout. All of them turned towards Gracker. Hey, whatever you guys want is fine with me, he said, spreading his hands and smiling. What are you talking about? I cried. Madame Pong rummaged in the pocket of her robe and took out another of the little devices I had seen her insert in the back of Gracker's head. This, she said simply. What is it? She closed her eyes and swallowed hard. It's the Berserk module. My favourite, said Gracker happily, strolling over and turning round. Go ahead, madam. I'm ready. Fingers trembling, Madame Pong removed the docility module from the back of Gracker's skull. Then she inserted the Berserk module. Stepping away quickly, she pointed at the side of the lunchbox and cried, Gracker, Wall bad. Kill Wall. Bad Wall, screamed Gracker, running forward. Bad, die Wall, die! Flexing his legs, he took a mighty leap and slammed full force into the side of the lunchbox. The entire box shook with the impact. Die Wall, screamed Gracker, throwing himself against the plastic once more. When the wall didn't die, or do anything else for that matter, he snatched the Barbie head from the floor. Holding it by the hair, he swung it around his head and smashed it against the wall, screaming, Krieger! Krieger Bandolo! Smash! 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 Barbie was taking a beating, but the wall didn't show a single dent. Flinging aside the head, Gracker tore off his shirt. Foaming at the mouth, he began throwing himself against the wall again. Each time he hit it and bounced away, he would run farther back, get more of a start, and try again. Soon he had a path across the centre of the lunchbox and was running forward, throwing himself against the side, bouncing off, running back to the far side and starting all over again, screaming all the time. The box began to move. Tar Gibbons and Madame Pong stood on either side of me, as if ready to protect me in case of disaster. Snout covered his eyes and turned away. Plink ran up my side. Whimpering in fear, he buried his face into my neck. Gracker's eyes were rolling in his head. His nostrils flared, his horns were throbbing up and down. Leaping forward, he dug his fingers into the slender crack where the top of the lunchbox closed against the bottom and began to pound his head against it, screaming, Foolish Wall! Feel the wrath of the Furkle's mighty Gracker! Stop him, before he hurts himself, cried Snout. There's no stopping him now, said Madame Pong. Gracker let out a blood-curdling scream. Fingers still wedged in the crack, he swung his body through his arms and began to kick the ceiling. The box lurched forward, teetered for a moment, then fell from the table.